Ram 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Krishna Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Ram 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Ram Ram Hari 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 Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram Ram Hari Ram 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 Hari yes Ram Ram Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram Ram Hari Ram 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 Hari Ram Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hari Ram 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna. Rama Rama. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Gopi Jana Balava Giribaradhare. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachare. Yamunatira Vanachare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare. Jai Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jai, Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Tadasasisamad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita Ki. Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. Sri Giri Govardhan Ki. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Sankirtan Yagya Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the Desamul devotees. All glories to the Desamul devotees. All glories to the Desamul devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. ISKCON Westville Yatra Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadishtarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakapatrubhyascha kripas sindhu bhyevacha. Padidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, we are in the very last chapter of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. We're in the second part, in the 7th chapter, which, as we said, is the last part. And it's, we're right at the end. And in the 7th chapter, we've been reading last night the description of Krishna and Sarup and the other cowherd boys playing in the forest, and particularly very detailed description of the beauty of Krishna. Very amazing, actually. So we're going to start this evening reading verse 62. Krishna did achaman and then chewed fragrant, camphor-rich betel nut that each boy had brought from his home, and also fresh forest betel nut, soaked and wrapped in many leaves of naga creepers. He enjoyed the betel nut and also gave it out. Doesn't say what naga creepers are. Be interesting to know. His friends made for him various garlands from flowers and leaves. There were flowers and leaves of tulsi, malati and jati, of malika, kunda jasmine, and kubjaka, of clove, ketaki and jinti, of madhavi, and 2 kinds of utika. The garlands had kanchana and karavira, and shatapatri, 2 kinds each, and flowers and leaves of palash, and Navamali, and Odra and Damanaka, and others. There were flowers and leaves of Kadamba, and of Nipa and Bakula, and Naga, Punnaga, and Champak. The garlands had Kutaja and Ashok and Mandara. They had Karnikara, Asana, Arjuna, Patala, Priyaka, and still other flowers and leaves. Krishna put these garlands on himself and then passed them out among his friends. What a scene! All these different types of, a lot of them are jasmine. Malati, Malika, Kunda, Madhavi. These are all types of jasmine, and so many others also. He smeared his limbs with a paste of sandalwood, aguru, kunkum, musk, and other fragrant substances brought from the forest, not bought from the supermarket, but just brought from the forest, because in those days all those things were just freely available. Then in a choice grove, fragrant with sweet-smelling flowers and resonant with humming bees, Krishna rested a while on an excellent bed made of many new soft leaves, sprouts and flowers. The body of his dear friend Sri Dharma provided a comfortable pillow, and countless friends served Krishna by expertly reciting prayers, singing sweetly, fanning him, dressing his hair, and massaging his lotus feet and hands. So Krishna's flower bed was so fragrant that many bees were attracted to it. Yes, so what a special scene. 70. Krishna enjoyed pleasing his friends, and in various ways, along with Balaram, indulged in his pastime of relaxing. Though Krishna's friends were very competent in the sport of keeping themselves from laughing, Krishna defeated them by imitating various characters, distorting his face, and cutting hundreds of jokes. So the boys were serving Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated by entertaining them. Then, making the animals rise by sounding signals on his flute and buffalo horn, he enjoyed grazing them near Govardhan Hill. And again, all his friends, each according to his own taste, tried to outdo the others in decorating Krishna with an assortment of wonderful items from the forest. Sure. In the evening, Krishna, the giver of joy to all of Vraja, left the newcomer Brahmin Jana Sharma in the hands of Sarup, and as before, took pleasure in entering the cowherd village. Yeah, so Jana Sharma had never been in the village, because he'd never been in the village. So Sarup was deputed to look after him. So, yes, now that the scene shifts a bit, and it goes back to Maharaj Parikshit and his mother Uttara, because that's where this whole book comes from. It comes from the discussion between Maharaj Parikshit and Uttara immediately after Shukadev Goswami had finished reciting Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. Just after that, and just before the snake bird came to kill Maharaj Parikshit. So all of this, the whole Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's the recitation by Maharaj Parikshit of his realizations from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So now that story, what we were just reading in the forest, and Krishna and the cowherd boys and his beauty and everything, That's finishing. That's finished. And now Maharaj Parikshit is going to try to convince his mother that you must also come back to Goloka Vrindavan. You must also, basically, you must also go back to Goloka Vrindavan. That should be the goal. So here we are, it's verse 74, and now the scene is changed, as we just said. O mother, you are fixed in the super excellent intelligence attained only by the mercy of Lord Gopinath. Now, reflecting on all you've heard, you can answer your own questions. That's an amazing thing. If you listen carefully enough and reflect nicely on what you've heard, then you can answer all your questions. You don't really need someone else. By your own endeavors, dear mother, please try to reach Sri Goloka, the deep ocean where the flood of all transcendental bliss finds its ultimate limit. Just by going there, you will eternally relish all sorts of most sweet loving exchanges with that same Supreme Lord. Because they are in Gokula now, 5,000 years ago. It's not that just anyone at any time can achieve those perfections at once just by traveling to the district of Mathura on earth. Rather, only a rare person achieves them when he has obtained full mercy from the Lord's dear devotees. O Mother, please, therefore, gather dust from the feet of devotees who have exclusive love for the lotus feet of the Lord. That place, Goloka, bestows eternal loving contact with Krishna's beautiful lotus feet, which are thickly smeared with the kumkum from the slopes of the gopis' breasts. Dear mother, I have thus replied, according to the spirit of your affectionate and deeply thoughtful questions, and all your doubts should now have been destroyed. Because Uttara's original question was, please deliver me, please deliver me, please save me, please deliver me. So she should now be delivered. That world Goloka, shining even above Vaikuntha, can be achieved only by firm, boundless love for the blessed feet of the lover of the gopis. In that land, one reaps the most valuable rewards, far beyond one's desires. When one meditates on the residents of that world, they grant the highest fortune of firm standing in prema. So now, 79, now there's another change of theme. And the change is that now Parikshit is going to give scriptural statements to back everything up, to confirm everything. He's going to quote from different scriptures. Now please hear some relevant statements of great sages, statements that will fully satisfy your mind. So, verse 80. From verse 80, this verse we'll read now, through to verse 85, there are quotations from Harivamsa. It's a sort of famous Puranic literature. Okay, here we go. Above Brahmaloka is the planet of the cows, which is protected by the sadhyas. Sadhyas means the perfect ones. O Krishna, that great planet is infinitely expansive, pervading the unlimited spiritual sky. That planet is above all others, and there you are to be achieved by intense concentration of the heart. None of us can understand that world, though we have inquired about it from our grandfather. 83. Swarga is the goal achieved by such pious practices as control of the mind and senses, and Brahmaloka is the highest destination, achieved by those who engage in intense spiritual discipline. But to rise to Goloka, the planet of the cows, is most difficult. That world was under attack, but you, O Krishna, competent, steadfast, and wise, saved it by putting an end to all outrages against the cows. Wow, that's amazing. So Swargaloka, that's Indra's planet, and even Brahmaloka, they're comparatively easy to enter. But to achieve Goloka, it is the supreme destination from which one never returns. Also, thus, okay, so this is now, that was from Harivamsa, this is now from Skanda Purana. Also, thus, O son of Kunti, in many different forms do I move about here on earth, on Brahmaloka, and in the eternal Goloka. Sri Janamajaya said to the sage Jaimini. So, it's a little complicated. We mentioned that Parikshit is explaining what he learnt from Srimad Bhagavatam, from Shukadev, to his mother Uttara. But that is being described or explained or repeated by Janamajaya, by Jaimini to Janamajaya. Gets a little complicated. So Sri Janamajaya said to the sage Jaimini, O foremost of Vaishnavas, I heard these same verses from Vaishampayana, and I derived some understanding from them. But now by hearing these verses from you, my heart shines with fresh insight. Oh, just see the most amazing glories of the Supreme Lord's devotees. It's only by their mercy that one can understand these things. Fearing that this narration is about to end, my heart burns with sadness. Please dispense some medicinal tonic by which my heart can again be fully satisfied. So this is the medicinal tonic. This is it. This is the one. Oh yes. Without this, any cure, any other attempt at cure, is just temporary. Sri Jaimani said, "My dear child, in the joy of having spoken about the glories of Goloka, your father recited several verses that complement these two wonderful histories. Those charming verses express various sweet ecstasies and bear the essential purport of all the Shrutis and Smritis. By chanting them, I'm able to dispel the sorrow I feel in the absence of your respected father. And thus I travel happily in this world. Now I shall recite those verses to you." Okay, so he's going to recite some verses from Brahma Samhita first. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. He resides in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, and simultaneously in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, who resembles his own spiritual figure and embodies the ecstatic potency, Hladni. Their companions are her confidants, extensions of her bodily form, who are permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. 93. So these verses now are all from Brahma Samhita. Lowest of all is the mundane world, Devidam. Next above it is the abode of Mahesh, Maheshdam. Above Maheshdam is the abode of Hari, Haridam. And above them all is Krishna's own realm, named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted to the rulers of these graded realms their respective authorities. I worship that transcendental realm known as Shweta-dweep, whereas loving consorts, the Lakshmis, in their unalloyed spiritual essence, practice the amorous service of the Supreme Lord Krishna, their only lover, where every tree fulfills all desires, where the soil is made of purpose gems, and the water is nectar, and every word a song, every step a dance, and the flute is the favorite attendant. Effulgence in that realm is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entities are all to be tasted and enjoyed. There, numberless cows always give transcendental oceans of milk, and transcendental time ever present, without past or future, eternally exists, not subject to passing away, even for the space of half a moment. That realm is known as Goloka. Only to a very few self-realized souls in this world. "96. So now, okay. This verse and the next 58 verses are from the 10th canto of Brihad Bhagavatam. And of these, the first 11, this verse 96 to 106, establish in a general way the glories of Vrajabhumi and its residents. Furthermore, how pious are the tracts of land in Vraja, for there the primeval personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about, enacting his many pastimes. Adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garlands, Lord Krishna, whose feet are worshipped by Lord Shiva and the goddess Rama, vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. So, there'll be more verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. Here's another one. O Almighty Lord, how greatly fortunate are the cows and ladies of Vrindavan, taking the form of their calves and children. You have happily drunk to your full satisfaction the nectar of their breast milk. All the Vedic sacrifices performed from time immemorial up to the present day have not given you as much satisfaction. So the point there, it's an important point and nice point, is that the Lord is more pleased with love than formality. This is the essence of it. He's more pleased by real affection, the real desire to the desire just to serve and please him, rather than formality and, very pompous even types of worship. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Vrajabhumi. There's no limit to their good fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal supreme Brahman, has become their friend. Yet even though the extent of the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan is inconceivable, we 11 presiding deities of the various senses, headed by Lord Shiva, are also most fortunate, because the senses of these devotees of Vrindavan are the cups through which we repeatedly drink the nectarian, intoxicating beverage of the honey of your lotus feet. So Krishna would speak, Krishna would perform his pastimes, Krishna would speak, he would do different things, and through the senses of the devotees who were with Krishna when he was doing all those things, the presiding deities of the senses would have very relishable experience of Krishna, because the senses of the devotees are engaged with Krishna, seeing Krishna, hearing Krishna, touching Krishna, like this, and getting so much nectar through that. And then the deities of the senses were also getting that wonderful experience. My greatest possible good fortune would be to take any birth whatever in this forest of Gokula and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, the dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. So this is Lord Brahma speaking. This is Lord Brahma speaking. So he would be happy to serve Krishna in any position, doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be as Lord Brahma. Could just be anything. Any birth whatever in this forest of Gokula. So now we're at 101. My mind becomes bewildered, just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions, which you bestow upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You've already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavan, whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? So Krishna becomes indebted to the devotees. He already gave himself to Putana, and her family members means Bakasura and Agasura. Yeah. Krishna already gave himself to them. So what else has he got to give the Brijbasis? So therefore, Brahma, this is Brahma speaking, Brahma feels that Krishna can't repay the Brijbasis, not even by giving his own self, because he already gave his own self. My dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires remain plunderers, their homes remain prisons, and their affectionate dealings for their family members remain foot shackles. That's, just for ordinary people, their homes remain prisons. But for the devotees of ISKCON Westville, the home is the spiritual world. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. My dear Master, although you have nothing to do with material existence, you come to this earth and imitate material life just to expand the varieties of ecstatic enjoyment for your surrendered devotees. Yeah. Just for his devotees, Krishna comes here. Otherwise, Why would he come here to Durban for the looting and revolution? Why would he come here? Oh my gosh. What? There are people who say, I know everything about Krishna. Let them think that way. As for me, I do not wish to speak very much about this matter. O my Lord, let me say this much. As far as your opulences are concerned, they're all beyond the reach of my mind, body, and words. 105. My dear King, I now humbly request permission to leave. Actually, you are the knower and seer of all. My dear Krishna, not my dear King, my dear Krishna, I now humbly request permission to leave. Actually, you are the knower and seer of all things. Indeed, you are the Lord of all the universes. And yet, I offer this one universe unto you. So again, it's Lord Brahma. My dear Krishna, you bestow happiness upon the lotus-like Vrishni dynasty and expand the great oceans consisting of the earth, the demigods, the Brahmins, and the cows. You dispel the dense darkness of irreligion and oppose the demons who have appeared on this earth. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, as long as this universe exists and as long as the sun shines, I will offer my obeisances unto you. Again, it's Lord Brahma. Sure, he's really into it. So again, next verse is also Lord Brahma. This earth has now become most fortunate because you have touched her grass and bushes with your feet and her trees and creepers with your fingernails, and because you have graced her rivers, mountains, birds, and animals with your merciful glances. But above all, you have embraced the young cowherd women between your two arms, a favor hankered after by the goddess of fortune herself. In fact, it's such a favor to be embraced like that by the Lord that Lakshmi wanted it. She wanted to dance with the Lord and, be embraced by him and all those sorts of interactions in the rasa dance. So therefore she left her husband Narayan and she came down to Vrindavan. And she wanted to enter the rasa dance, but she didn't understand that in order to enter the rasa dance, you have to follow in the footsteps of the gopis and learn how to serve Krishna and interact with Krishna and develop a relationship with Krishna like the gopis. She wanted to come in and go into the rasa dance as Lakshmi, this big, super opulent woman surrounded by servants and maid servants and so many things, and come in and take part in the rasa dance. But she couldn't do it. She wanted to. So she performed austerity. But that's not the process. You got to follow in the footsteps of the gopis and learn to serve the way they do. So she wasn't able to enter, and she is still there in Bailvan. Lakshmi is still there, and she's still doing austerities, and she still has not entered the rasa dance after 5,000 years. What do you think of that? Still, she's displaying great persistence and determination. But still. Yeah, so to enter Vrindavan, you've got to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. And let me just tell you one little story to conclude for this evening, is that Kamsa had heard, we read just a few nights ago how Kamsa sent Akrura to take Krishna from Vrindavan, to bring him to Mathura for the wrestling match. And Kamsa was hoping Krishna would be killed by the wrestlers. But of course Krishna and Balaram killed the wrestlers, and then Krishna killed Kamsa. But anyway, before that, quite some time before that, when Kamsa came to understand that Krishna, the 8th child, was in Vrindavan, so Kamsa decided just to go into Vrindavan himself and kill Krishna. So from Mathura, Kamsa set out for Vrindavan, which is not far away at all. We mentioned that. And he got in his chariot and off he went. And he came to the boundary. He came to the boundary of Vrindavan, between Mathura and Vrindavan. And he just crossed the boundary, and suddenly Purnamasi was there. Because she is Yogamaya. She's supervising the pastimes in Vrindavan. So Purnamasi just appeared on the spot, and Kamsa was surprised. And Purnamasi asked Kamsa, "Who are you?" And Kamsa said, "Well, I'm the king. Who are you?" And Purnamasi said, "I direct things around here." and Purnamasi told Kamsa, "You want to enter here? Yes. Then I have to prepare you." And she has the stick, Purnamasi. She tapped him with the stick, and Kamsa turned into a little gopi girl with the same evil Kamsa mind, but physically, this little, like 6 or 7 or 8-year-old girl, just a small girl. And Purnamasi said, "All right, now we will train you." And Kamsa, she told Kamsa, "You see those cows? There were some cows around. See how they're passing cow dung. First lesson, number 1, you must learn to pick up the cow dung and make cow dung patties." And little Kamsa now in the form of a little girl, protested. What? Pick up cow dung? I don't want to do that. And Purnamasi said, you want the stick again, because who knows what will happen. So Kamsa now was picking up the cow dung and making the cow dung into cow dung patties. You know how to do that? Next time, we'll train you up.
It's just like vadema.
Yeah, of course they can. So Kamsa was making cow dung patties. Then Purnamasi called him over again. Okay, that's not bad. Now notice that you can tell when a cow is going to pass cow dung because they lift their tails up, sort of in a curved, hooked kind of shape, and then they pass the cow dung. And the best thing is to get the cow dung before it touches the ground. But what you got to do, you got to watch out, see when one lifts the tail up, and you just got to run over and be ready to catch it. And Kamsa said, listen, I don't want to do that. And Purnamasi said, oh, you want the stick again? So now Kamsa was in there, running up behind the cows to get the cow dung. And sometimes the cow dung landed on her face. And it was really quite something. And eventually Purnamasi called Kamsa over again. Okay, you're doing all right so far. But now for lesson number 3. And Kamsa decided he didn't want to hear what is lesson number 3. He ran. He just ran. And as soon as he stepped over the boundary between Vrindavan and Mathura, he transformed into Kamsa again. The big, heavy Kshatriya warrior king. So, and Kamsa never came back. He never came back. He sent others, all the other demons, but he never came back. And you know why? He didn't want to find out what is lesson number 3. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Brihad Bhagavatamrita ki jai. Go Premanande. Oh, yes.